Okay, let's get right into it, man. I'm not gonna waste your time. I was doing some looking in my analytics here, and I think I'm the fastest growing channel on YouTube as far as music goes, and nobody really knows because of how decentralized it is. So let me dive into everything. I'm not gonna go into the backstory of the things I've done, who I am, all that stuff. Doesn't matter. But hold on. Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I won't get into the backstory, but what I'm going to talk about is I think I'm beating the game now. I think I beat the game. I'm doing not millions, but I'm doing 1 million streams a month now on YouTube. Now let me explain how I've been able to do it. Specifically on YouTube, music. Spotify is kind of catching up now, but I don't really care about Spotify because it takes long to send a check, and I don't care about Apple Music too much. But it seems like the check is coming in from there. It's not as big. But YouTube, if I keep growing the way I'm growing currently, I think easily I'm going to build another easily 7 figure operation for like the fourth time in different industries. So without further ado, what I'm doing currently to do 1 million streams is let me say this first. I've been listening to all these guys that talk about how to blow up all these things, some backstory. You see them, the guys that are doing millions of streams, the Rosses and so on, and they're independent and they brag about being independent, you know. But in being independent isn't a flex, as you might think. I don't think it's a flex. It just means most times that nobody believed in you to give you a check. That's why it happened to me at least. So I kind of had to figure it out. So I'll tell this part of the story. It was back in 2020 or 2021. I really wanted to like just do music and blow up, but I needed money. So I spoke to a few people in the industry that I was trying to hire, but I didn't have the money to put up. So I tried raising capital. Long story short, I ended up doing a lot of things. I made some money, but in my process, I learned about business overall. So I don't want to talk about business. It gets boring. Let's not talk business. This is about music. So I learned basically that you have to have a niche market. That's the primary essence of business. You always start in a niche, small market, and then once you have some money and some success there, then you expand. So that's what I do with music. Um, Most people today speak about doing content. So I took that approach. I said, hey, I'm just going to do content. I didn't figure out my target audience at the time. So I roughly uploaded, let me not say over 200 to 1,000 pieces of content on TikTok specifically. Uh, though for TikTok, it failed. It all flopped. Let me not say failed, but it didn't bear the fruits. So with being, let me say, not stranded, but just not knowing what to do, and I know why it didn't connect on TikTok. TikTok is a more of a personality style audience and so on, and my whole thing is my personality is about going. We're about going. I'm about success. I'm about working. I'm a little bit more serious. I know I got a personality, but TikTok is really is a funny app. Let me just say that. So TikTok didn't connect like I wanted to. Instagram was not connecting. It's clearly music doesn't connect to Instagram anyway. It's very rare. Snapchat was doing something, but I was just attracted. It's a personality thing. So a lot of girls on Snapchat, maybe they just like me. But I was seeing something strange on YouTube. When I post reels, regardless of how they're connected, I kept increasing the threshold for some sort on YouTube Shorts specifically. So as time went by, and keep in mind, I'm not telling you a backstory. At this point, I've probably released over 600 songs. on YouTube. No, let me correct. Maybe 400. And I have another 200 in the back about to drop. And I'm not going to talk about how I got this done. You know, these are catalogs from the 2021 thing I was doing. Um, Pertaining what I'm talking about here, I think I started doing this in 2024. So 2024, 2025, 2026. It's taken me 3 years. 3 years. And let's not talk about the crazy stuff I was doing on TikTok during these 3 years. So over 3 years, 1,000 pieces of content, over 1,000 pieces of content never connected, but I learned something on YouTube. Fast forward, shorts on YouTube were not connecting to the music, but I noticed YouTube had a strong algorithm. So I had a choice to make. I had a decision to make. How do I proceed here? I did a lot of thinking. I did a lot of thinking, and it just came down to understanding branding. So we're not going to talk about that. But understanding branding comes back to focus. And what's focus? Niching it down. So I niched it down. I branded. I was in the middle of nowhere. Let me not talk about that. But I branded. And then I started to identify who's my customer, just like I've done in my previous successes. Who's my customer? Specifically, you don't with music, you don't have to look too far because you have to look at yourself to find your customer. So you understand yourself and then you find your customer. Unfortunately, for me, my niche personality is so it's subset. I had to compromise. I said maybe I might just become like a pop star that talks about nothing. So I had a huge awakening about who my customer is. But with music, it's a unique venture. Music is not like sales or your regular business. That's why it's funny. I believe if you can make it in the music industry, you can make it in any industry. If you can make anybody blow up in the music industry, everything else is easy because music is a strange phenomenon. Anyway, so I narrowed down my customer. I know who my customer is when I look at myself and I look at the genre I'm producing music in. The only issue with the demand wasn't there. What's the demand? Me. With hip hop specifically, or music that's like for a younger audience, like guys my age. It's more of the brand has to be on point. It just has to be on point. It just never works out. That's why you have the phenomenon of one hit wonder. A guy has one hit, he disappears. It didn't connect. The song was dope, but his brand, his image, and what he's about, usually they try to be themselves, and that never works. So I decided, okay, I'm just gonna be myself. Okay, that's the first start. Then I started looking at different genres of music. Shit, shit, man. The battery died, and I kept talking through the mic, and we lost the audio. So I'll try repeating everything I was saying. It was a one take video, but I spoke about you need a niche down and so on. Okay, so why I chose multiple genres? Here's the thing: you need to create demand for the product. Any product needs demand for it to be purchased, and the demand is you as a musician. Usually, the thing with creating demand is you have to spend a lot of money on advertising, especially in hip hop specifically, for many reasons. Your brand has to be on point, and you need to spend a lot of money. Until now, maybe because I'm doing it. And business usually is a tricky game. You have to find demand before you allocate money. That's the tricky one, and that's why labels are important because they front you the money, you spend it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, which is a pathetic model. But when it does work, it's a very lucrative business. But that's besides the point. So for why I started looking at different genres and different styles on how to distribute the music is I needed to test. before spending money and so on, because that's the kind of philosophy I adopted. It's just me. That's just the way I do things. I want to first see if I spend the money, am I going to be able to get it back? So I started testing in different genres, different subgenres of what I like and so on. And then I identified myself, of course. And then I started looking at those subgenres, the people that might be just like me in those subgenres. And I started writing music and melodies within that lane. I started distributing it on YouTube specifically, and then meta prompting it for YouTube. And that's how I got into the algorithms, specifically in three core genres. Perfect. And shortly, I just started ramping up. I was already doing scale. So keep in mind, I'm already doing scale. It was costly. So I was spending a lot of money on music production. Now I don't even spend much because of the tools we have today. You now have coding agents, you now have AI agent, AI tools. It's just cost effective dramatically. So I won't talk about that. But it's just as long as you can write the music, you know your audience, you can net a prompt, you're gonna be fine. And then if for me specifically, I have some unique skills. So I was able to build a mixing engine. Well, once I saw what's connecting the sound, and I have a private music mixing engine myself. I don't even know anybody that's built a music engine out there. I mean a mixing engine. So that's what I did. And it allowed me to build like an assembly line for the once I understood what melodies are connecting and so on. So I just did that. So yeah, what am I missing out on? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had more wonderful insights in the other video that cut, and hopefully this stuff is still on. But pretty much, you just need to have you need to test a lot, spin up new accounts, see what's connecting. You need to do meta prompting and get into first, and then you need to understand your audience and what they like, and then make more music within that lane. I know as an artist, as a creative, it sounds a little bit soulless as when you structure it that way. But you are poor, more than likely, if you're watching this, or maybe you don't have a quarter million, half a million, or a million to spend on marketing, which you might lose anyway. So if you want to test, this is pretty much it. And then how to meta prompt on YouTube, you just have to see what's trending within the music lane. And yeah, you're in business. So my next goal here is to simply get to a million streams a day, not a month. I want to start doing a million streams a day specifically on YouTube. And yeah, after that, I'll probably drop a debut album. And that's pretty much it for me. I've conquered it. I'm not desiring more. I think I'm beating the game now. So once I just get to a million streams a day and I can drop a debut album, I'll put the money behind that. Then what's there to do? Like as as far as music, I'm pretty much I'm in the lane. So I'm streaming more than most people or anybody, even the biggest artists right now. The streams I'm doing on YouTube are unreal. So I'm here. See you soon.